What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for MLB Tuesday, June 7th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's MLB slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, we have a 12-game slate tonight, so let's take a look at the pitcher position. So I'm not gonna mess around here, I'm just gonna pay up here. I like Alek Manoah with a huge pitching advantage here over the Kansas City Royals. Alek Manoah pitching his best ball versus righty batters, only giving up a .419 OPS versus righties. He's facing 5 righties here tonight. Now the Royals have only hit 1 of his last 16 pitches. That's a .063 batting average. Although it's a pretty small sample size, it's a fantastic start. And Alek Manoah is $11,000 FanDuel salary. He's $1,000 less on DraftKings. He's averaging 39 fantasy points per game on the season. He's been on fire, scoring 39, 43, and 43 fantasy points in the last 3 games. He has an ERA of 1.98. Record is 6-1, pitching an average of 91 pitches per game. So I like Alek Manoah here versus the Kansas City Royals. Now the other stud pitcher on the slate you could go with is Justin Verlander. He's in a pretty good spot here versus the Seattle Mariners. Justin Verlander only giving up a .551 OPS versus lefties, facing 4 lefties, and the Mariners have only hit 18 of his last 78 pitches. That's a .231 batting average. Justin Verlander is $10,900 FanDuel salary, 300 less on DraftKings, averaging 39 fantasy points per game on the season. He has an ERA of 2.23, record is 6-2, pitching an average of 93 pitches per game. So I like Justin Verlander here versus the Seattle Mariners. Okay, let's take a look at the catcher first base position. I like Willson Contreras with a 10% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Kyle Bradish. Willson Contreras batting a .765 OPS versus righties. Kyle Bradish pitching his worst ball versus righty batters, 35% worse than his pitch to lefties, giving up a 1.187 OPS versus righties. Willson Contreras is $3,600 FanDuel salary, 1,000 more on DraftKings, averaging 12 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored fantasy points in all 5 of his last games, scoring 12, 6, 28, 19, and 34 fantasy points, so he's been on fire. He has a batting average of .276, so I like Willson Contreras here versus Kyle Bradish. Now, even though he's facing a pretty good pitcher here tonight, take a look at CJ Cron with a 12% batting advantage over Carlos Rodon. CJ Cron batting a .912 OPS versus lefties, and Carlos Rodon pitching 11% worse to righties as he does lefties, giving up a .599 OPS versus righties. But I like this pick because CJ Cron is 5 for 12, batting a .417 batting average and a 1.129 OPS versus Rodon. He's $3,700 FanDuel salary, 1,200 more on DraftKings, averaging 12 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored points in all 5 of his last games, and he has a batting average of .295. So I like CJ Cron here versus Carlos Rodon. Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching. If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal, all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won, and then we'll send you $25 PayPal. So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you. Okay, let's take a look at the second base position. Here's a value play. Take a look at Brendan Donovan with a 21% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Jeffrey Springs. Brendan Donovan batting a .753 OPS versus lefties. Jeffrey Springs pitching his worst ball versus lefty batters, 37% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .891 OPS versus lefties. And I like this pick because Brendan Donovan is only $2,600 FanDuel salary and only $600 more on DraftKings. So I like that price on both sites. He's averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored fantasy points in all 5 of his last games, and he has a batting average of .319. So I like Brendan Donovan here versus Jeffrey Springs. Now I also like Tommy La Stella with a 17% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, German Marquez. Tommy La Stella is batting 11% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .734 OPS versus righties. German Marquez giving up a .765 OPS versus lefties. And I like this pick because Tommy La Stella is 6 for 15, batting .400 batting average and a .905 OPS versus Marquez. He's only $2,800 FanDuel salary. Now he is $1,900 more on DraftKings, so I love that FanDuel price. He's averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season. He's in a little bit of a slump here, not scoring fantasy points in his last 3 games. He has a batting average of .235, but I like the splits and I like the batter versus pitcher history, and I like the price tag on FanDuel. So I like Tommy La Stella here versus German Marquez. I also like Jose Iglesias with a 37% batting advantage over Carlos Rodon. Jose Iglesias batting 27% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a .891 OPS versus lefties. Carlos Rodon giving up a .599 OPS versus righties. Jose Iglesias is 5 for 14, batting a .357 batting average and a .857 OPS versus Rodon. He's only $2,600 FanDuel salary, $800 more on DraftKings, averaging 8 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored fantasy points in all of his last 5 games, and he's got a batting average of .314. So I like Jose Iglesias here versus Carlos Rodon. Okay, let's take a look at the third base position. I like Austin Riley with a 14% batting advantage here versus Cole Irvin. Austin Riley batting 9% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a .927 OPS versus lefties. And Cole Irvin pitching his worst ball versus righty batters, giving up a .728 OPS versus righties. Austin Riley is 2 for 4 here versus Irvin with a 1.350 OPS. He's $3,800 FanDuel salary, $1,700 more on DraftKings, averaging 12 fantasy points per game on the season. He's scored fantasy points in all 5 of his last games, scoring 10, 31, 6, 25, and 29 fantasy points in the last 5 games. So he's been on fire. He has a batting average of 265. So I like Austin Riley here versus Cole Irvin. Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Now, I also like Ke'Bryan Hayes with a 43% batting advantage over Tarik Skubal. Ke'Bryan Hayes batting 19% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a .837 OPS versus lefties. Tarik Skubal pitching his worst ball versus righty batters, 25% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .700 OPS versus righties. And Ke'Bryan Hayes is 1 for 2 here versus Skubal. He's 3,200 FanDuel salary, 1,600 more on DraftKings, averaging 10 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored fantasy points in 4 out of his last 5 games. He has a batting average of 289. So I like Ke'Bryan Hayes here versus Tarik Skubal. Okay, let's take a look at the shortstop position. I like Francisco Lindor with an 18% batting advantage here over Yu Darvish. Francisco Lindor batting 11% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .767 OPS versus righties. Yu Darvish pitching his worst ball versus switch hitters, giving up a .698 OPS versus switch hitters. Francisco Lindor is 5 for 10 with a 1.138 OPS versus Darvish. He's 4,100 FanDuel salary, 1,200 more on DraftKings, averaging 13 fantasy points per game on the season. He's scored fantasy points in 4 out of his last 5 games. He has a batting average of 258. So I like Francisco Lindor here versus Yu Darvish. Now, I also like Brandon Crawford. He's 11 for 32 here versus German Marquez at only 3,300 FanDuel salary and 800 more on DraftKings. So Brandon Crawford is in a great spot here. The splits are good as well. And then I like, as a value play, Jeremy Pena. He's 3 for 6 versus Chris Flexen. He's only 2,800 FanDuel salary and 1,800 more on DraftKings. So I love that FanDuel price. Jeremy Pena on FanDuel here versus Chris Flexen. In a value play, I just want to bring up here is Nico Hoerner. He's got a 46% batting advantage over the low salary pitcher Kyle Bradish. Nico Hoerner batting 11% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .769 OPS versus righties. Kyle Bradish, he is pitching his worst ball versus righty batters, 35% worse than his pitch to lefties, giving up a 1.187 OPS versus righties. Now, there's no at-bats versus Bradish yet, but the splits are great, and Nico Hoerner is only 2,500 FanDuel salary, 700 more on DraftKings, averaging 8 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored fantasy points in 4 out of his last 5 games, and he has a batting average of 294. So I like Nico Hoerner here versus Kyle Bradish. Okay, moving on to the outfield position. Save some salary for the outfield position because we got some home run hitters on the slate. We have Bryce Harper in a great spot here versus a low salary pitcher, Jason Alexander. We have Yordan Alvarez in a good spot here versus Chris Flexen. Then we have Ronald Acuna Jr. in a good spot here versus Cole Irvin. And then you have JD Martinez in a good spot here versus Reed Detmers. So all of those guys in good spots here tonight. I would go with Bryce Harper or Yordan Alvarez as my home run hitters for tonight. But moving on from those stud picks, I like Christopher Morel with a 33% batting advantage over that low salary pitcher, Kyle Bradish. Christopher Morel is batting a .846 OPS versus righties. We know Kyle Bradish is pitching his worst ball versus righty batters, giving up a 1.187 OPS versus righties. Christopher Morel is $3,500 FanDuel salary, $800 more on DraftKings, averaging 13 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored fantasy points in all 5 of his last games. He has a batting average of .291. So I like Christopher Morel here versus Kyle Bradish. If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smickety smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.